Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller Grotner Plummer Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Maller Grotner Plummer Attorneys, understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, on the web at lawngp.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. Smithville, fiber internet, security solutions, and voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger and Robertson, attorneys at law since 1949, utilizing experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. Bloomington's mayor blames some of the city's issues with the unhoused population on an influx of individuals from outside the county.
Our community is not serving anyone well if we are not able to get our heads above water.
Almost 40% of Monroe County's unhoused have lived here for less than 2 years. The Indiana State Fair opens today with a new attraction, a big top circus featuring acrobats, aerialists, clowns, and more.
I know it sounds silly, but I stand there with my hands on my hips and take 3 deep breaths before I'm really ready to go out for my act.
The circus will have 3 performances daily during the State Fair's 2-week run. And some Bloomington officials want to regulate the number and location of car washes in the city. We'll have these stories and more right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Bloomington has the reputation for offering better services for unhoused people than other cities in the region, but Mayor Carrie Thompson says the city is drowning in demand. As Ethan Sandwise reports, the city and local nonprofits disagree on the best approach for accommodating out-of-town homelessness.
Monday was a quiet day in Seminary Park. Normally, this grassy block near downtown Bloomington is abuzz with homeless activity, but it's been largely empty since Bloomington police arrested 8 last week on drug dealing and possession charges. Thompson ran for office on a platform to expand housing. At a press conference days after the arrests, she said Bloomington is struggling with new arrivals from places with fewer services.
Today, individuals are being brought to Bloomington by other jurisdictions. Both IU Health and Wheeler, among others, are experiencing influx that they're unable to deal with.
A year ago, the city worked with local shelters and housing groups to create a housing action plan. At the time, those nonprofits said they would stop admitting people from outside the region to emergency overnight shelters. But Heading Home is ending that requirement, explaining that it can't practically reunify all of the out-of-towners with the communities they came from.
At this point, we don't have the capacity to do that. And so the fear is that if we make a residency requirement and say, you can't stay here, then that person may well just become unsheltered.
Thompson disagrees.
Our community is not serving anyone well if we are not able to get our heads above water in order to truly end the cycle of homelessness for the residents who are from our HUD district.
In June, Heading Home counted 471 people in Morgan, Monroe, and Lawrence counties living on the street and in emergency shelters. An equal number of people entered the system to those who either left or found housing.
We've really been working hard to kind of get a grasp on what's going on and then try to really look at proactive steps for what we can do going forward. Because obviously what we've been doing in the past hasn't been working.
Giffen is Bloomington's first ever homeless response coordinator, a position created by Thompson to help meet her ambitious goal of virtual zero homelessness. He's been on the job 3 months. America's homeless crisis stems from intersecting problems in housing, healthcare, and addiction treatment. Bloomington provides better access to these services than other towns, with facilities like IU Health Bloomington Hospital and Centerstone's Stride Center. But Giffen says its successes have come with a catch. According to Heading Home's most recent survey, almost 40% of Monroe County's unhoused have lived here under 2 years. more than a third were homeless when they arrived.
We've especially seen, just in the past few months, a lot of other jurisdictions kind of cracking down more on street homelessness, and so kind of making it an uncomfortable place to be in those jurisdictions.
Jurisdictions taking the cracking down approach have been given a freer hand since President Donald Trump's executive order, making it easier to institutionalize homeless people against their will and increase funding for places that are tough on urban camping. At the same time, the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development is considering cuts to Section 8 housing assistance that low-income renters rely on. But the city and Heading Home agree that it's up to Bloomington to guide its neighbors toward a more service-based approach.
If you're from Bedford, there is a men's shelter, but it's only open part of the year, right? So one of the things that Heading Home is trying to do is to work with other communities in our region to improve the resources they have available in their community.
In June, Thompson invited mayors from other cities across Indiana to come up with a regional strategy.
Everybody can kind of help everybody help the people in their own communities so that they're not having to travel from one community to another to try to get resources.
Cities and nonprofits are used to doing more with less when it comes to homelessness, but there's a silver lining for Bloomington. With a $7.3 million grant from Lilly Endowment in January, the Community Foundation of Bloomington and Monroe County is helping groups expand services for unsheltered homeless. Despite setbacks, Morgan and Thompson say they're optimistic.
In 2025, many of us think that this is an intractable problem that is never going to go away. We can and we will get to virtual zero homelessness.
I think that we're going to see a decrease in unsheltered homelessness, and I think we're just going to see a community that really wraps its arms around this problem.
Heading Home is developing updates to last year's Housing Action Plan, and the mayor's office has more meetings scheduled this month with staff from other Indiana towns. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Ethan Sandweiss.
Thompson says the city values Heading Home as a partner and will continue to work with it despite their disagreements. Well, we're joined now by Elise Perry for more headlines from around the state. Hi, Elise.
Thank you, Joe. Indiana First Lady Maureen Braun announced a significant investment in Dolly Parton's Imagination Library of Indiana on Wednesday. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Lauren Chapman reports Braun was tasked with finding philanthropic support for the program after the governor and legislature eliminated its state funding.
The CenterPoint Energy Foundation donated $500,000 to the statewide program. The Imagination Library is a nonprofit early childhood reading program that mails books to children from birth to 5 years old.
We are very proud to help the First Lady and Dolly Parton's Imagination Library to provide books, the very tools needed to ensure that Indiana has the young readers of today who will become your state leaders of tomorrow.
Braun says early childhood literacy has a wealth of benefits for Hoosier children, including brain development and vocabulary.
This matters for the future of our children, and this matters to all of us as a community to help fund the Imagination Library.
Former Governor Eric Holcomb funded half of the program's statewide expansion with $6 million in state funding in 2023. Governor Mike Braun announced in February his administration would eliminate that support. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Lauren Chapman.
Semtra Biopharma Solutions has finalized a purchase of the Cook Group's 65-acre property located on North Curry Pike. The 300,000 square foot property is the former General Electric plant and is near Semtra's existing medicine development facility west of Bloomington. The company specializes in manufacturing injectable medicines. It's exploring the possibility of new manufacturing lines at the site.
This facility will allow us to step into more specialized therapies, more targeted, particularly in the oncology field, so cancer products.
Adam says it's too early to know how many jobs will be created, but he expects an increase. The Environmental Protection Agency wants to undo its finding that climate change harms people and eliminate greenhouse gas standards for cars and trucks. Indiana Public Broadcasting's Rebecca Thiel reports EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin officially announced the proposal Tuesday at a commercial truck dealership in Indianapolis.
The 2009 endangerment finding serves as the scientific and legal basis for many of EPA's rules that limit greenhouse gas emissions from things like cars and coal plants. Zeldin says reversing the finding would be the largest deregulatory action in the country's history. He says greenhouse gas emissions from cars and trucks have gone down in recent decades, and Americans shouldn't be forced to buy expensive electric vehicles.
There are other nations that continue to increase emissions, and all of us strangulating our own economy, regulating the heck out of American families and American industries.
Former EPA officials and climate advocates say reversing the finding will lead to more premature deaths as well as increased risks from heat waves and flooding. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Rebecca Thiel.
The Indiana Motor Trucking Association says electric trucks are more expensive, can't transport as much cargo, and don't have an established charging network. The public will have 45 days to comment on the proposal. Bloomington's legal battle over annexation will be heard by the Indiana Supreme Court on October 30th. The case challenges a 2019 state law that retroactively voided property owners' remonstrance waivers. The waivers are agreements in which owners gave up their right to oppose annexation in exchange for city services. The Indiana Supreme Court will hear arguments from both the city and the state legislature. Indiana will receive more than $16 million from the largest nationwide settlement with 8 drug companies over the opioid crisis. In addition to the money, each of the companies are barred from advertising opioids, rewarding employees based on opioid sales, and banned from manufacturing any drug containing more than 40 milligrams of oxycodone. And the Taste of Bloomington returns Saturday after 5 years. From 3 p.m. to 10 p.m., Kirkwood Avenue between Walnut Street and Indiana Avenue will be filled with food and drink vendors, along with live music. Natalie Fitzgibbons has more.
The event was canceled after 2019 because of the COVID-19 pandemic. It supports local businesses by showcasing local restaurants, breweries, wineries, and distilleries. There will also be local bands and musicians.
The culinary scene in any community, but especially Bloomington, is the lifeblood. I mean, it's what brings people together.
Major changes to Taste of Bloomington this year are cost and location. The event is free, and each booth will offer a small serving of about 3 menu items, each costing $5 or less. There will be about 50 local food vendors, ranging from international to American cuisine. There will also be 8 alcohol vendors, including Oliver and Butler Wineries, Friendly Beast Cider, and the Bloomington Brewing Company. An eclectic mix of local musicians and bands, ranging from country to jam bands, will provide music. A local merchandise company called Bad Knees Tees will be there as well.
To support all of these different local businesses, to have some great beers, some great wines, and then listen to great live local music. Just all together. I mean, I don't know what else you could really ask for, to be honest.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Natalie Fitzgibbons.
And Joe, the weather is supposed to be perfect tomorrow with sun and highs in the upper 70s.
Isn't this wonderful? Perfect timing. And it's supposed to be really good at the Indiana State Fair as well. That opens in Indianapolis with rides, animal competitions, exhibits, and more. Today, among the new attractions this year is a circus. Our Isabella Vesperini has more on how the circus can be part of the fair.
This past week has been full of preparations at the state fairgrounds. Among those getting ready is the Big Top Circus. Acts include human cannonball Brian Miser, who appeared on America's Got Talent, comedians, a globe of death with motorcycles inside a steel cage, and an aerialist.
It's going to be full of dynamic movement, fast spinning. I'll be upside down. All of those classic things that you want to see when someone's up in the air.
Montgomery attended circus school 7 years ago and has been performing for about 4 years. She follows a strict routine on performance day.
I'll wake up and I do my makeup and my hair first, even before I'll come to the tent. And then I'll warm up, get ready, get my body ready. Lots of stretching, push-ups, pull-ups. And then I know it sounds silly, but I stand there with my hands on my hips and take 3 deep breaths before I'm really ready to go out for my act.
She has traveled the world to perform and is excited to be in Indianapolis.
To show all the people who come to the State Fair in Indiana really what the circus is about, show them my act, just kind of be back in the tent. There's nothing better than being in an actual circus tent, and it is a little bit rare that you can see a circus in the full tent instead of in a building.
Ringmaster Ian Garden has been in the circus business since the 90s.
My family's been in it my whole life, so my grandfather started the very first circus in Canada in 1938. And in the early 90s, my brother and I took over the show from my father and his partner.
Garden helps recruit acts and organize the show, which runs about 40 minutes.
I'm out there in every performance, announcing the show, keeping the energy up during the show.
Garden hopes to bring the circus back to the fair in the coming years. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Isabella Vesperini.
The fair runs through August 17th. Circus shows are daily at 1, 4, and 7 p.m. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. City officials are looking to regulate the number of car washes in Bloomington and where they can be built. And the Indiana football team opened fall practice this week with the goal on building on the success from last season. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
Asking tough questions to those in power.
There is this consensus that Democrats are somehow out of touch with the voters.
All of us have to do a better job of seeing the very real pain that exists across this country.
What did you make of the high degree of dysfunction within the Republican conference?
I always felt that it was broken.
And covering events as they unfold.
This continues to be a dangerous situation. Almost everyone is either evacuated or lost a home in this fire.
Hello, I'm Todd Gould, Senior Producer Director at WTIU. I've personally devoted nearly 40 years of my life producing PBS arts and documentary films about important stories from Indiana, the arts, history, and people that make Hoosiers great. Despite government cutbacks, we will never stop telling Indiana's stories, your stories. Please donate now to keep this station strong. Become a sustaining monthly member at WTIU.org.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Demand for car washes is growing nationwide, but Bloomington officials say the town already has too many. Isabella Vesperini reports on Bloomington's latest car wash and how the city is working to limit them.
David Freeman gets his car washed every week. While he's been going to the West Side Crew Car Wash, the new East Side location is closer to where he lives. He doesn't see a need for any more car washes than the current number of 8.
Yeah, I think 8's a good number. I don't think we need any more than that.
Crew Car Wash's new East Side location opened just last month.
We felt putting another location here would not only fill kind of a gap in just the area itself, but also just help give customers more convenient access to car washing.
The car wash industry spiked during the pandemic and is growing approximately 5% every year. Cassidy Tate attributes the increase to pride of ownership and a desire to maintain car quality.
They take pride in their ride. They want to look good. And on top of that too, I think a lot of people, you ride around in a clean car, you feel better. So I think it's an easy way to just get a little disconnect from the day as well. You get 3-4 minutes of some peace in there. And then when you leave, you got a nice shiny car to feel good about.
Despite growing demand, one city official says there are too many car washes in Bloomington with limited benefits.
They provide 0 to few jobs, and the jobs they do provide are really low paying. There are environmental concerns with chemicals and water runoff and vehicles idling and traffic. They're aesthetically not things that many people want to look at.
Currently, car washes can be built in 2 mixed-use districts in the city. After getting complaints from citizens about the high number of car washes in the area, the city is proposing an amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance that would reduce the number of areas approved for car washes.
They're still allowed in the city, but we're wanting to corral them in an area where they might be more appropriate. Think of the big streets where you're going to find your bigger stores, so on the east side and the west side where the big box stores are.
As to environmental objections, Crew Car Wash says it has electrical devices that minimize the amount of electricity used when starting the equipment. They also have a retention pond on site and reuse water in portions of the wash.
A lot of the earlier portions where it just needs rinsed off, we have a water reclamation system where we're filtering it on site, cleaning out the bacteria, making sure that it's sanitized and clean enough that it's not going to cause any health hazards. And we reuse some of that in the wash.
Cassidy Tate thinks the high number of car washes in Bloomington helps promote competition.
There's going to be customers that are going to want to hand wash their own vehicle. There are going to be vehicles that we just can't wash due to the sizing and vehicle safety restrictions we have in place. So I don't think it's a bad thing for customers to have other options.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Isabella Vesperini.
Bloomington will celebrate the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act Saturday with a free event during the farmers market. To mark the anniversary, we look back to a story from last fall by Indiana Public Broadcasting's Rebecca Thiel on how Indiana is trying to make it easier for people with disabilities to enjoy the outdoors and the state's parks.
This is why I brought you this way. This is the fun part.
Indianapolis resident Nancy Griffin says she enjoys the challenge of maneuvering around tree roots here at Eagle Creek Park. She's using a motorized wheelchair, affectionately known as Peggy.
Which is short for Pegasus, the winged horse, which is the mythical animal. But Pegasus can fly, and I feel like when I'm on Peggy, I can fly.
With Peggy's help, Griffin can get to places she might not have been able to before. She walked on the beach for the first time a couple of years ago while she was in Florida for her granddaughter's wedding.
I'm off running up and down the beach in the sand out here, acting like an idiot, but just having the best time because I could go right up to the surf and come right back up. It's where all the umbrellas are sitting and the people are, enjoying their little beverages and chatting away. And it just was the most fun. I felt like I was 5 years old.
Though Griffin has her own chair for trails, the Indiana Department of Natural Resources loans out motorized chairs at 11 state parks. Here at the McCormick's Creek State Park Nature Center, an employee shows how caregivers often bring the chair to visitors with disabilities. This year, the DNR released a webpage where people with disabilities can find things like trail chairs, as well as accessible places to hike, fish, hunt, or get in the water. Edwards says at first, he didn't want to have an accessibility webpage. He didn't want people with disabilities to feel limited to only going to certain trails and parks.
Then I realized that I had not done a good job of promoting a lot of the things that are out there that we've been working on for years. For example, the trail chairs. We've had trail chairs since 2006.
The number of adults in the U.S. that have some type of disability has been slowly increasing over time. Edwards says people with disabilities are living longer, and they want to be able to enjoy nature the way everyone else does.
People with disabilities are coming back from Iraq and Iran, military situations where they want to go out and experience the same things they experienced before.
Edwards says getting rid of barriers for people with disabilities benefits other folks too, particularly children. Having lower railings in wildlife viewing areas can ensure someone sitting or a child standing can both see the sandhill cranes. Ramps accommodate wheelchairs and strollers. This beach mat at Paintown State Recreation Area in Bloomington makes it so wheelchairs can roll down to the lake or kids can keep their feet cool and off the hot sand. Edwards says better access is first and foremost the right thing to do, but it's also financially smart.
We're trying to reach out to all people. And if we purposefully exclude a group of people, we're not only excluding them, but we're excluding their families and their friends and everybody else. So I would say that's certainly on our minds, that this is income generating, but it's not the priority.
Though the DNR has done a lot to make its properties physically accessible, Edwards says there's still more to do. He says he'd like to see more tactile exhibits, like the one at Falls of the Ohio State Park, which allows someone who's blind or has limited vision to feel models of the fossils under the water. Nancy Griffin says she'd like to see more Braille and more accommodations for people who are sensitive to bright lights or loud noises.
I'd love to see a trail walk or a bird hike here at the park with someone who's an interpreter giving the talk so that people who are deaf could go and you don't have to hear the birds. If you can see them, you can still enjoy them.
Edwards says feedback from the public is the main way the DNR prioritizes properties for accessible upgrades. Even hearing from one person can sometimes turn into action. The DNR has put out a survey to find out which natural spaces in Indiana need more accessibility. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Rebecca Thiel.
And expectations are high for the Indiana football team after one of the most successful seasons in history last year. The Hoosiers had their first of 20 practices Wednesday, leading up to the season opener.
We're looking for consistency in performance. A lot of the older guys have been through it. Some of the guys went through last season, and some of the older guys that are projected to start joined us in January and had a taste of it in the spring.
IU returns a solid core from last year's 11-2 season. The big change will be at quarterback, where Cal transfer Fernando Mendoza takes over. The Hoosiers open the season August 30th against Old Dominion. Cignetti has faced criticism for a perceived soft non-conference schedule.
They're good teams, and when you play them early in the year when they're healthy and they're at full strength, they're especially dangerous.
After Old Dominion, the Hoosiers host Kennesaw State and Indiana State before the Big Ten season gets underway. The Hoosiers have been picked to finish 6th in the Big Ten in a pair of preseason polls. Well, that's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at ipm.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller Grotner Plummer Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Maller Grotner Plummer Attorneys, understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, on the web at lawngp.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. Smithville, fiber internet, security solutions, and voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger and Robertson, attorneys at law since 1949, utilizing experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.